The man who led the Bay of the Pigs invasion was Pepe San Ramon. He led about 1,500 men on April 17th of 1961 onto the shores of Cuba. They had been gathered, recruited by the CIA, and he had what was called the 2506 Brigade. They had started their numbering at 2,500 so that if any of them were caught, their number would make it look like there were at least 2,500, aka like 4,000 of them, but there was only 1,500. And then the guy who had been number 2506 died during training. His name was Carlos Rafael Santana. And when he died, he was well loved, and they began calling themselves the 2506 Brigade in his honor. And Pepe San Ramon got dropped off on the beach, and there was just like a series of things fumbled during this process, right? Now, keep in mind, the CIA is not supposed to be dropping off paramilitary forces on other countries' shores. That was generally, like a violation of national law. So they're trying to be sneaky about this. Starts under President Eisenhower, moves to President Kennedy. President Kennedy makes some shifts at the last minute that definitely undermined what was already a risky, if at best, sort of operation. He changes the time of day. He puts it at a different location. He's nervous that it's going to come out that the United States is doing this, right? So he's trying to minimize the way that the U.S. could be drawn back into it. There's this initial plane bombing that happens, and they dress up United States aircraft to look like Cuban aircrafts and make them defect to the United States. But the U.S. media is not stupid, and they notice that these are U.S. aircrafts, and nobody's talking about it. It's messy. It's messy from the start. The CIA misjudges in these aerial photographs of Bay of the Pigs. They misjudge, and they think that there's seaweed along the beach, and it turns out there's coral reefs, so they can't even properly drop all the supplies. They end up leaving Pepe San Ramon and his men on the beach, and he's continually trying to get air contact, radio contact with them throughout this thing. But essentially, they end up abandoned with the exception of they do allow, they send some planes to do some more work. They're shot down. But mostly the men are dropped, and that's that. He has 1,100 troops 3 days later. They've stayed, they've fought. He ends up radioing the U.S. once more, and he says, "Tanks are in sight. I have nothing to fight with. I cannot wait for you." He surrenders to these tanks, and they take him and all these men prisoner for a long time in Cuban jails, which are very, very bad. A little over a year later, I think, they end up releasing them to the United States for $50 million worth of supplies, right? So basically the United States ends up paying for these guys back, but still being but that wasn't us, just for international law's sake, that wasn't us. And later, Che Guevara actually thanked one of Kennedy's advisors, a guy named Richard Goodwin, for the Bay of the Pigs invasion, because he said that was the moment that solidified Cuba, that it was the entrance of Bay of the Pigs that made Cuba have the fortitude to continue on and see themselves as an equal player. Pepe San Ramon comes back to the United States after he's released, and he ends up, he passes away in 1989 of self-inflicted method, and one of his men that had fought with him said immediately afterwards in an obituary that was published in the New York Times, he says, "He was a man of great integrity. Psychologically, he had scars brought on by the defeat of the invasion. He felt betrayed by the United States."